Late one evening in Burbank, the cameras of The Tonight Show rolled on a scene that seemed cordial enough. Johnny Carson greeting Bob Hope, America's beloved entertainer, with warmth and praise. On camera, Carson lauded Hope as a national treasure. Off camera, however, a chill settled in the studio air and Carson's famously genial smile never touched his eyes. For decades, these two giants of comedy had shared the same network, the same audiences, even the same acclaim. Yet behind the scenes, a rivalry of icy proportions was boiling over. Johnny Carson arrived in 1962 with a quiet confidence honed on radio and early television. He sculpted The Tonight Show into a nightly ritual, perfecting his timing, his eyebrow lifts, even the pregnant pauses. He built an empire of spontaneity, inviting viewers into an intimate conversation that felt fresh and alive. Bob Hope, by contrast, had spent 70 years mastering every medium from vaudeville to motion pictures to television specials. His rapid-fire monologues, his Christmas shows from battlefield hospitals, his status as the USO's unwavering champion, Hope was more than a performer. He was an institution unto himself. On paper, these two should have been allies. One had paved the vaudeville to radio to film path that Carson would later follow. The other had redefined talk show hosting. Each held unrivaled power in comedy. Hope as the relentless showman, Carson as the understated craftsman. Yet every meeting backstage was an exercise in restraint. Crew members would remark that when Hope's production team arrived, they moved furniture, rehearsed lighting cues, even dictated camera positions, as though The Tonight Show were a Bob Hope special, not Johnny Carson's creative canvas. Carson watched with growing frustration. He expected guests to arrive prepared to collaborate, to bring fresh anecdotes, to engage in genuine banter. Hope's entourage submitted question cards they'd pre-approved, insisting that Carson stick to scripted prompts. If Johnny veered off course, Hope's eyes flicked away, or worse, his team quietly signaled the cameras to roll the next predetermined joke. Carson, master of the improv, felt like a supporting actor in someone else's show. By the mid-1980s, the tension had metastasized. Hope's people would calendar his appearance with curt declarations. Bob will be here next Thursday. No consultation, no flexibility. NBC executives, mindful of Hope's Christmas specials that drew tens of millions, capitulated time and again. Crew members greeted his demands with dread. Private dressing rooms, specific lighting schemes, complete script approval. Meanwhile, other celebrities, Lucille Ball, Richard Pryor, George Burns, worked with Carson as equals, sparking candid exchanges that produced television magic. With Hope, spontaneity was smothered under layers of entitlement. Somewhere along the line, Carson stopped caring about preserving the facade. He began shortening Hope's segments, experimenting with other first guests, and covertly downgrading Hope's billing on promotional materials. Then, in a move so discreet that no viewer noticed, Carson exercised the ultimate power his contract afforded him. From that moment on, Bob Hope would not appear on The Tonight Show again. There was no press release, no apology, no handshake on stage. Hope's name simply vanished from the guest lineup, preserved in NBC's internal records under the label persona non grata. What drove Carson to this extreme? At its heart lay a fundamental clash of philosophies. Hope represented an era of entertainment built on controlled perfection, predictable monologues delivered from behind the veil of celebrity, a separation between the man and the persona. Carson had come to define the opposite. Authenticity matters more than polish, vulnerability more than spectacle. He believed that a raised eyebrow, a sudden burst of laughter, a real emotional crack was far more valuable than any rehearsed punchline. Hope's refusal to adapt, his cue card crutches, his rigid formats, his transactional view of airtime, felt to Carson like a betrayal not just of his show but of his viewers. Around the time of Hope's final unspoken ban, a seasoned Tonight Show writer recalled Carson's quiet resentment. He said that Hope just needed to show up with a golf club and a Reagan joke to get airtime, and he hated that. He prepared for hours, read every book, watched every movie, learned every detail, and here was a legend coasting on nostalgia. Carson, that was unforgivable. He treasured the craft of genuine conversation, the raw spark of unscripted humor. Hope's insistence on delivering pre-approved plugs, sometimes stumbling through them, seemed to mock everything Carson held dear. When Carson retired in 1992 at the height of his powers, Bob Hope quietly returned under Jay Leno, who welcomed him back, perhaps eager to honor his predecessor's hero. But much had changed. Hope, nearing 100 years old, no longer commanded the lightning-fast wit of his youth. Television had fully embraced Carson's vision of authenticity. Audiences now craved hosts who immersed themselves in real dialogue, who let moments run long when magic flickered, who allowed genuine emotion to surface. The rigid, studio-controlled formula that once defined Hope's specials looked increasingly like a relic. In 2003, when Bob Hope passed away at 100, Johnny Carson, living out his days in private retirement, issued a terse, polite statement. Hope was an institution, a pioneer, a friend. No anecdotes, no glowing praise, no personal sorrow. Just a measured nod. It was classic Carson, dignified restraint that hinted at a distance only insiders understood. This story of an unspoken feud between two titans offers more than Hollywood gossip. It illuminates the shifting landscape of American entertainment, from an age of unswerving deference to icons, to a new era valuing transparency and genuine human connection. Bob Hope's career spanned moments when America sought escapism, reassurance, even propaganda wrapped in affable humor. Johnny Carson emerged when audiences grew more skeptical, more eager to laugh at absurdities rather than be spoon-fed them. Hope's steadfast adherence to old-world showmanship collided with Carson's pioneering intimacy, and Carson, unwilling to compromise the soul of his show, drew a line in the sand. When you tune into today's late-night hosts, Jimmy Fallon's playful camaraderie, Stephen Colbert's incisive wit, Jimmy Kimmel's vulnerable moments, you're witnessing the legacy of Carson's choice. Authenticity reigns. Real engagement is the currency of connection. And if a legendary figure clings too tightly to the past, the future may pass them by. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think.